I call to order the Etna Township Board of Trustees regular meeting here on Tuesday, November 19th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Burkholder?
Here.
Ms. McKee? Here.
Ms. McKee, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Please stand, bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you again for this day. We thank you for allowing us to come together as a township to represent the township. Lord, we thank you again that you have given us the opportunity to lift up your name. And Lord, we ask you to protect this township, protect the residents, keep us safe as we go back to our residents. And we ask you to bless the military as they try to keep us safe around this country. And Lord, we thank you again for allowing us to come together, and we continue to give you the praise and glory and honor. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. I'll move to amend the agenda to add a resolution 2024-62 to new business under item C, and this has to do with the hiring of a road laborer. This was a late addition, but in follow-up, and I had conversations with the township administrator who advised if we could get this on the agenda, that we can proceed with the hiring process. Is there a second to the amendment? Any discussion on the amendment?
Yes, I was first surprised not to see this on the agenda because we knew this was needed and coming. I had spoken with the administrator earlier today asking why and suggesting that we do add this. So I'm glad to see it's on here, but it should have been on just the regular agenda because, again, it was known that we needed it, move forward, delay for delay's sake, especially getting into snow season, but we need to stop these just delays for no reason.
Well, Mr. Evans, with all due respect, our administrator has been out, and so this was simply an oversight. She called me this afternoon. I said, absolutely. And so there's a lot of things that right now we're dealing with, particularly with our administrator out of the office temporarily. So is there any further discussion?
The only thing I'd like to say is that's an excuse, not a reason.
Well, Mr. Evans, I'm not even going to respond. It's consistently you attack this board and the employees as well as your fellow colleagues, and I'm sorry that you can't seem to control your emotions in that regard. But
No,
I'll
sir,
do
this
the
is your failure.
roll call on the amendment, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Yes,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
and I'd like to make a motion to add under new business, making the administrator the primary contact for all vendors, outside counsel, the TID, the Pike Street project, and the park committee. This is due to the numerous failures of Mr. Burkholder properly engage outside counsel, which we'll deal with those fees later, vendors, which we haven't been served properly there, and Mr. Burkholder has made numerous changes to the Pike Street project without board authority or input. Mr. Burkholder has failed repeatedly to respond to vendors, and this is the third request to even get it on the agenda to discuss. The other two times have been denied. I expect this time to be not denied too, but we need the administrator to have the full authority and to move forward past all the errors, omissions, non-return calls, and all that. So we've hired an administrator for an extraordinary amount of money. We need to let her do her job.
Is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion? Hearing none, the motion fails. I'll call the question on the adoption of the agenda as amended. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Our agenda is adopted. Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the August 6, 2024 regular meeting minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
My question, has Mr. Burkholder and Ms. McKee reviewed all these minutes?
Yes, Mr. Evans, I've actually reviewed them all and made some minor corrections, and I believe you have a copy of the October 15th, which I also reviewed and had some corrections, which our administrative assistant made. And since those were corrected after the agenda was put out, you have been provided a copy as well as Ms. McKee. And so is there any further discussion on
Yes.
the August 6th, 2024?
Well,
regular meeting
there's
minutes?
numerous errors in the minutes, including one of voting where it lists an intern voting as a member of the board. Now, this board, the other board members have indicated that they've reviewed all the minutes before, but when these were first put out and tabled at the last meeting, two of the minutes were identical for the special emergency. There was nobody else that caught it. Over 50 errors on other ones that the other two have said that they're
Mr.
reviewing.
Evans, we
So
are on the
I moved to
August
table these
We are
because they
on
still
the-
contain
We are on the
errors.
August 6th, and it's my understanding that you reviewed all the minutes and forwarded your corrections to the administrative assistant and to the township administrator. Is that correct?
It is not correct.
I'm going to ask that at this time, the administrative assistant has the opportunity to respond.
I'll respond
Mr.
directly.
Evans,
I sent the
you
initial
are
at our
out of
last
order.
meeting.
Let the administrative assistant, you do this every meeting.
At
Ms.
the,
Mapalumbo, please.
at the last meeting, you did send me the corrections the morning of. I made those corrections and sent them into you within the hour. You did not come
There-
back to me and say there were more corrections that needed to be sent. The intern situation, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Okay, now, when I got these minutes before and looked at them, I noticed that the special meeting and regular meeting were exactly the same meeting.
And those were corrected.
Minutes, and that's the only correction. I did not say, I actually said I didn't have time to review all of those. And that's what I pointed out too. So I have not done this, and again, this is to a point that, again, it shows that an intern voted and nobody else caught it.
Mr.
Because
Evans,
they're not reviewing these.
I did review. Now, when did you review the minutes? Have you sent your corrections since the last meeting to the?
I looked over them
assistant?
today because I've been dealing with the fire board, insurance matters, and a lot of other matters of this township. I don't have employees helping me do this stuff. I don't have it, but it shows again that Mr. Burkholder and Ms. McKee are not reviewing these things. Because again, a couple meetings ago, there were over 50
And
where
those
there were
corrected.
missing motions and there was missing, it's glaring, but again, the intern cannot vote and she's listed as voting,
Which minutes are those in?
the October 7th. But there's other errors. So that's what I'm saying, there's no real review of these being done.
Well, then.
So I moved to table
Well,
all
I'm not,
minutes.
Mr. Evans, you are an obstructionist. You do this every single meeting. You continue. I did review all the minutes. If I missed something, fine, but you didn't even take the time to get this over. And now you're making an excuse that, well, it's everybody else's responsibility. Now it's not my responsibility. We're not going to continue to play this obstructionist game. So if you have corrections, no, let me finish. If you have corrections, we will approve these minutes if we have the votes tonight with corrections and forward them. And I discussed this with the administrator, and she agrees. If you have corrections, get them in and we'll make those. She, because she's been out, has not had an opportunity, I don't believe, to go through all of these. But she said she would going forward. I did go through all of these. But I'm not going to continue to argue. If you have corrections, you have a responsibility and a duty as a township trustee to work with staff, with the administrative assistant, and get them in. I did this time, take the time to go through them in detail, including the October 15th. So I'm going to call the question. I'm going to call the question at this time to approve these minutes with corrections and any corrections, Mr. Evans, if he chooses to get those into the administrative assistant. Roll call, please.
There was
Mr.
a
Evans?
motion to table. on the
Is
floor.
there a second to the motion to table? And it's postponed, actually, Mr. Evans, according to the township administrator. But is there a second? Hearing none, that motion to table fails. Thank you for bringing up that procedural item there, but I will now call the question to approve these with corrections, including any corrections Mr. Evans may or may not have. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes?
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
August 6, 2024 regular meeting minutes are adopted with corrections. I'll move to adopt the October 7th, 2024.
Wait,
I'm sorry,
are we doing them one at a time?
one at a time.
Yes,
All right.
so that's just one.
And I will move to adopt the October 7th, 2024 special meeting minutes with any corrections that Mr. Evans may have, including one that he identified as far as an intern voting. Is there a second to
I'll
that
second that
motion?
motion.
Discussion?
So you're approving minutes with corrections that I will provide in the future? That doesn't make sense.
Any further discussion? You've already noted it here tonight, so we're adding that to the motion, so I'll.
No, that's
I'll
one
call
of the
it-
errors.
I'll call the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes. Minutes are adopted. Move to adopt the October 7th, 2024 emergency meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, again, this is not the proper process. If you recall, several meetings ago, you just bull rushed and pushed minutes through that you had to reverse and go back, and you even said it today. This time I reviewed it in detail.
I did.
What did you do last time? What did you do for the rest of the year?
If I miss a minute, Mr. Evans, your personal attacks are out of order.
No, this
so-
is about properly serving
Any-
the
any
residents
further-
of this
any
township.
further discussion on the October?
No, I moved to
7th minutes?
table.
Is there a second to his motion, Mr. Evans' motion? Hearing none, the motion dies. Any further discussion? Roll call on the October 7th, 2024 emergency meeting minutes.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. I'll move to adopt the October 15th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And I'll move to table.
Is there a second to Mr. Evans' motion to table? Hearing none, the motion fails for lack of second. Roll call on the adoption of the October 15, 2024 meeting minutes.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
those minutes are adopted. Motion to adopt I'll move to adopt the October 25th, 2024 special meeting minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll move to table because
Is there a
they haven't
second to
properly
the?
been reviewed.
It's non-discussion on a motion to table, Mr. Evans. Is there a second to Mr. Evans' motion to table? Hearing none, the
And
motion,
again-
hearing none, the motion fails. Any further
And-
discussion on the October 25th, 2024 meeting minutes?
Yes, again, these minutes have not properly been reviewed. It's been shown time and time again. And this is not about anything but properly administering this township, which has been a failure left and right. Zoning minutes, everything. I don't understand why we can't just do it right.
Mark, what is wrong with you? Why don't you want to work with your colleagues in a cooperative fashion? Why don't you want to work with our employees? And we all have our strengths and weaknesses, but why do you constantly wait till a meeting to play the gotcha game? Why do you do that?
Mr. Burkholder, you just refused to allow on the agenda to allow the administrator be the primary contact.
You're out of
vendors.
order. That's not.
You
that's
are
not
the one
discussion here.
not working together.
That's
You
not
want
the
to play
dis-
administrator.
Is there any further discussion on the October 25th
No.
minutes? Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Thank you. These minutes are adopted. Okay, the land use plan update and,
Wait.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Public comments, don't want to cut anyone short here.
Sorry,
Thank
you
you.
guys are not allowed to talk.
You are allowed to talk. Limited 3 minutes, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and please address the board.
Ryan Davis, 8807 Watkins Road. Thanks for your help today, Holly, getting that meeting posted outside. And how are you doing, Mrs. McKee? And
I'm good, thank
having
you.
fun as always, Mr. Burkholder. I just want to let everybody know that I attended the fire board meeting last Thursday just to kind of see what their discussion was about the levy that didn't pass. And there was a person there that looked just like Mr. Evans, but he acted completely different. He was very professional, had some good conversation. I don't know what happens when you walk in this room, Mr. Evans. It's just very disheartening. It's gut-wrenching to anybody that cares about this township, how combative you are on the easiest things. I'm sure you'll have a reason why the videos that you're continuing to choose to record instead of work on a township video streaming portion have not been uploaded, which are at least 2 or 3 meetings behind. We're just sick of it. I would love for you to choose to try to come in with a positive attitude, work better with these trustees, because they are trying. Nobody's perfect, even you. I would like to see this meeting go a lot smoother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Anyone else?
John Kennard, 10785 Palmer Road, Pataskala. Again, where do you start? I wanted to thank the secretary and administrator. They did give me a copy of the road project, whatever you want to call it, agenda. You could tell on there that there's not a whole lot of experience on negotiating contracts, but you know, that's our money, not theirs. I see Mr. Evans made the news again on his harassment expenses for the trustees for the township. $27,000 for his harassment case. I don't know how long we can put up with this harassment that he is involved in. I mean, I think he's harassing the secretary now, because it seems like every meeting there's a problem with the minutes. Who does the minutes? He acts like they're so incompetent to do the minutes. I thought the minutes were recorded. It don't take a whole lot to you know, if they're recorded, to put them on the database and be done with it. But, you know, I guess we speak out of turn a lot, and so we make a lot of mistakes that needs to be corrected. Now, I'm not sure, are we having an executive session today in this meeting?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to suggest, last meeting, we had 2 executive sessions. Folks volunteer their time to come here and listen to what's going on in the township. And we come, and 20 minutes into the meeting, we go into executive session. So we sit out here, again, like we're in the funeral home, waiting for somebody to come in to visit. Come back out, nothing's said, meeting starts back up. We go for a little bit more, and then we go for another executive session. Now our funeral home is open again. We're sitting out here. We do chit chat a little bit, but I think it would be very nice to have it just like it is now. Have the executive session at the end of the meeting, towards the end of the meeting. That way we can decide to go home if we want, or we can stay and wait and see if there's any announcement comes forward out of the executive session. But just for the courtesy of the residents, do come to meetings. Our meetings are getting like the past presidential election.
30 seconds.
We made I got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We made a great advance in the last election, and hopefully we'll make a great advance in this next election, because we can't take this harassment much longer. And as you can see by the attendance, they're tired of it too. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I got
Thank
none
you.
for my time.
You finished with 3 seconds left. Anybody else like to speak at this time, please come forward.
John Hanson, Ridgewood Drive. Mr. Evans here has a distinction of being the sole contact that has driven out all 3 employees that are missing from this organization. And now he's starting on the financial officer and Gary, and he's been on McKee consistently. So these are all people that he, well, not the employees, but Mark cannot. Have you ever worked anywhere where you got along with everybody, Mark?
Many places. Fire district,
The fire district.
they don't pull these kind of shenanigans.
Let him just, go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Hanson.
But tonight, you know, again with the, I'll just use your word, again with the minutes, it's just like a broken record. The intern there on the August 7th thing, that's obviously a typo where they put in the intern's name instead of Ross McKee's. So it's easily correctable. Did you send an email saying that's what it is right there? To just send an email to the person that's typing and correcting these. What you do is you lie in wait and spring things. It's only news. I mean, unless there's a camera running, your camera recording your election videos, you have no help. You're not helpful unless it's a gotcha on camera. Mr. Burkholder is absolutely correct. And for you to make me start liking Gary Burkholder, I mean, that is, you're really doing something, sir. I got to, my hat's off to you there. So, that's about all I have tonight. I didn't have any prepared remarks. It's just the constant blame, complaint, and defend. To attack, to distract, the blame from yourself. We can depend on that every time.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time? Very good, thank you. Okay. Old business. Item 8, land use plan, update and open house. Nothing's been scheduled on this. I've had conversations with the township administrator about this, or reached out to Mr. Leonard. I haven't heard anything. I'm definitely in favor of this. I did attend the recent Etna Township Zoning Commission meeting, and they had a request that we possibly set the second meeting in January, which is a township trustee meeting, for the open house, and work toward accomplishing that. But I advised that I would bring that to the full board and see what the Board of Trustees would like to do on this issue. Again, our administrator's been out, so she has not had the opportunity, I don't believe, to have a conversation with Mr. Leonard, but this is obviously long overdue, and we want to have that open house and put this to bed so that we can start looking at updating our zoning resolution, our zoning code as well. So I'll open it up to the board members to see what they would, what's their preference.
Have we received the corrected draft of the proposal?
I don't know, Mr. Evans, but I do recall at the previous meeting that I guess invited you, or said if you, I know you had a lot of good corrections and things that you noticed, and so I guess my question tonight is, have you made any attempt to contact Mr. Leonard on your own?
Yes, I have. I sent him all the corrections, and this was the same corrections that I noted to you 2 months before the June 26th presentation you held with the incorrect maps and all that. Mr. Leonard sent back a link with the corrected documents, and they were the same exact documents as prior. Now, I copied all board members on that, so I would have assumed you would have seen that and taken action, but since you do not know if it's been corrected, I'm assuming they have not been corrected. And we're gonna be going into December without these. It's 322 days that you've had to deal with this, and this is why I motion that you cannot be the contact with these vendors, because nothing is being accomplished. There's no follow-through, no accountability, no oversight, and it's putting us in a position where I've got people that own land that are being financially harmed because of the delays, and they keep asking me, it's on the agenda tonight, are you guys gonna be moving forward? And I had to say, I have no idea, because as a board member, if something's on the agenda, I should have an idea of what's gonna be discussed, not, I wonder what's gonna be discussed. And this is the part of the lack of providing information to this board with these agendas, Mr. Burkholder. So I don't know how we can set a date when we don't even have the corrected draft. And then also, we really need to get people involved in this and advertise it, because with the Pike Street open house, where 5 residents attended, outside those that are on commissions and that, nobody knows this stuff's going on, and this is important about our future. So number one, I think we gotta hold the contractor accountable. This is the contractor I did not want to go with, because it was a one-man operation. Planning Next is who I suggested, and I would almost say if he's failed to follow through, there should be consequences, and maybe we should have another firm properly deal with this. This is our future we're talking about.
I don't think anyone disagrees. I do disagree with some of your points you've made. When did you actually talk? Did you talk personally to Mr. Leonard? Or?
No, email. I try to do everything through email, so there's a documented record of that, and I included the full board. So you would have received that email.
Have you discussed this with the township administrator?
The comprehensive plan, I
Yes.
did, when she was coming on board, I indicated that it should be advertised properly. We can use the wind waste service, which we should have done for the Pike Street open house, but that was set without the administrator or the board's input whatsoever. So that's why I'm concerned about all this. And again, the zoning commission, number one, should be driving what we're doing. But to say January 22nd should not be driving what we're doing for public open house, when we don't even have the draft. You didn't even ensure that we have a draft before we're set. How can we set a date? Are we going to have another presentation where the future land use map is our 2014 zoning map? That you had printed and hung up around the room, that you didn't oversee to ensure it was correct, after I told you for 2 months straight it was wrong. And you did nothing to correct it.
Mr. Evans, first of all, the consultant has to make the corrections. But secondly, you talk about us all being equal. You'd like to delegate to everybody else and blame everybody else, but you never want to pick up any of the slack either. So as far as now let me finish. As far as advertising, you criticize us on Pike Street. Well, we should have had signs and advertising. Are you willing to help the administrator as well as your fellow board members and create signs and help us get that word out? Or are you going to simply delegate and complain? And let me correct you on something else. You continue to accuse me of not letting the administrator be the lead. She is the lead. She has all the contacts. If I get an email and that email does not have her, I put her on that. She attends the meetings. I had a conversation with her on this. She said, we've got to get this done. We've talked to the zoning staff on that. So you can't have it both ways.
No, sir.
Well, I've talked, now let me
the
finish.
Pike Street meeting, I asked Brandis, who made these changes, and he said Etna Township, and it was not Etna Township, it was Gary Burkholder. You did not bring it to the board, and you're expending funds there, making changes that should be board directed, and for you to not officially relinquish control. We had an situation at the township garage where our administrator didn't have any of that stuff, and you told the security company, well, she can be included. That is not everything. All the contacts for outside counsel and that needs to run through there because it was board action. We made you for the special counsel, so it takes board action, not Gary Burkholder or his word.
Well, let me just clarify. You're incorrect. First of all, the job description clearly indicates that the township administrator is in charge of the day-to-day operations, which means she has all contacts. She can contact all vendors. She works with them on the day-to-day operations. That includes the prosecutor, which, by the way, Mr. Evans, she's already had contact with the prosecutor because we've under restrictions now. We as a board have a hard time getting opinions from the prosecutor because of your actions. Now, secondly, she has contact with outside counsel as well. And at the reorganization meeting in January of this year, the board president was voted on unanimously to be the day-to-day supervisor of the administrator. So that as the board president, I work with her on a day-to-day basis. But let me make something perfectly clear to you, to the board, and to the audience, and then to the entire community. We have a very competent and capable and hardworking administrator. And she makes the decisions on the day-to-day. She comes to me and asks questions. I brief her on things. She goes to the economic development meetings when developers come in. She's at those meetings. She works with all of our vendors, and she has no restrictions whatsoever. So your false allegations that I continue to block, no, I work with the administrator very closely on a daily basis to make sure that the operations and the best interests of this township are being served. So I do take exception and offense to your constant personal attacks that I am somehow keeping the administrator. I've been in favor of administrator. I worked hard to get a search firm in here. We all participated in that process. And I've talked to the administrator about your constant objections that there has to be some formal action. What you really want to do is you want to cut off Ms. McKee and myself totally from the administrator, that we will have no input and no contact. And that's not in the best interest of the township.
No, but Ms. McKee even contradicted what you just said in an email. We couldn't respond because of that, but when I said this should be on there, said, no, the board already took action that they're not, that she's not. So that totally, and like I said, for her to have to get your permission to contact the security company, which I still don't have access to the township garage, an emergency which caused an issue before, but we're talking about the land use plan. So how are we going to hold the vendor accountable? Because we can't schedule anything without having a draft.
Mr. Evans, first of all, I think the zoning commission does have a right to weigh in, because the land use plan is connected to the revisions of the zoning resolution. But I said I would communicate to the board. And so, Ms. McKee, what are your thoughts? I mean, I'm as frustrated with the fact that we can't get closure on this because the consultant is not getting us the correct information. So I'd like to hear from Trustee McKee if you have any thoughts or input on this as well.
Well, the whole thing is we have to wait for the consultant to produce the updated information. Until we have that, like we said, we would turn it over to our administrator once she gets up and running with everything. There's a lot of things that's happening right now. There's a lot of moving parts. So we're transitioning her in little bit by little bit. I know Mr. Evans wants everything to happen now. And it doesn't work like that when you're transitioning people into a position. It takes time. I did it when we had our previous administrator, so I understand how it works. You do a little bit at a time. So Mr. Evans, I'm sorry, you're getting frustrated. You're not respecting us as a board, and it's always about a gotcha moment, and we have to stop it.
No.
That's not getting anything done.
No, this is about the reality of what happens and what is not happening. It was June 26th that we had the presentation, and the vendor said, I'll have the corrections within a specified amount of time. It was weeks.
You're correct.
We get into July, August, September, October, November. Nothing, and now we're hearing Ms. McKee saying, well, we just have to wait until they provide it. For how long?
Well, what's your solution, Mr. Evans?
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to hear your solution.
My solution would be contact our attorney about breaking the contract, getting another vendor in here, send it back to the zoning commission who, they didn't discuss the densities, they did the important things of more correction, so.
I will not stand for you to constantly criticize our zoning commission. This is the first that I've heard, you've actually had a solution, so I suggest that you communicate with the administrator that you're in favor of notifying the current vendor that we need this by date certain, and if not, then we'll have to break the contract.
I think he breached his contract, and I mean.
Will you contact the administrator as such?
No,
Don't put it on me.
Gladly.
You want the administrator to be the administrator.
Gladly, you gonna let me do
So,
something? All right.
well, I don't stop you from talking to the administrator, Mr. Evans. I don't know where you get this blocking thing. You say we're all equal. If you have a problem, if you have a solution, contact the administrator directly, Mr. Evans, instead of grandstanding at these
No,
meetings.
the issue with this, even like with the minutes and that.
No, you're
Let's
out
move
of
on.
I'll deal with that in
this
trustee comments.
discussion.
Yeah, let's move
You
on.
go ahead and contact the administrator. It's on the record. Okay, now we come to the JED and JEDZ appointments. This is our Joint Economic Development District and our Joint Economic Development Zone appointments. You've got some worksheets there. We have District, the JED 1, and that term was from 2020 to 2024. Mr. Carlisle currently is in that position, and that has expired. So tonight, we've had several applicants that have applied for this, which we interviewed all but one. And it's my understanding that applicant would also like to be considered. So for JED 1, I'll make a motion. Is there a motion on JED 1 as far as?
I'll move to appoint Rachel Zelenzi, Zelenzi, to fill the term.
I'll second that motion
or,
for JED 1, and that would be Rachel
well,
Zelenzi.
are you gonna have a conversation about it?
Yes,
Okay.
discussion, go
Okay,
ahead. Sorry.
discussion?
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I know you jumped over to it real quick, but we need to know that Rachel is on the BZA, and to me, that is a conflict of interest. So I don't think that she should be considered for any of these boards because of that. Now, different with Shelley IPAC, because she's on the zoning, which is different. You're just interpreting what's already there. So I think that we should have went more into research that this would become a conflict of interest. So I don't think Rachel should be considered for that position. And, we have other choices there. Mr. John Carlisle, Shelley IPACs. John is a history with the boards, has a lot of history. So I just think that needs to be brought to our attention.
Well, the only thing I'd say about that is I researched and I didn't find any conflict with the BZA and a JED appointment. I would think there'd be more conflict with the zoning commission because zoning commission is making recommendations in general with M1 districts and that where BZA is specific property. So if there was ever a property within that JED district, she could recuse herself. But generally, I don't think there's any conflict in any of that conflict list through the auditor. There was none there. So I think Ms. Lindsay is very detailed. She does her research, and I think we need someone like that on the board to look at the details, look at the contracts, and especially the expenditures.
What conflict are you talking about with the auditor's office?
There's a list of positions of can you serve here and here? Can you serve can you serve as a school board member and be in this elected position? There's an entire list like that.
Well, I have the same concern because BZA members can grant variances to businesses that are interested in going into that district, and without a variance, they may not go in. I think we've experienced some of these conflicts in the past. So my only proviso would be that if that we as a board, if she is appointed, want to be very cognizant of that, because I've been concerned in the past about some of the BZA decisions regarding economic development and variances that have been granted that encourage economic development. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Also, I just want to be clear that these are unpaid boards. The board's members all decided unanimously that we would not be paid for these boards. So I just want to make that clear to the ones that are in the audience, that we did come together as a board and they are not paid. I mean, you had that option, but the board members chose not to, unanimously not to be paid for those boards.
I appreciate that clarification. So I'll ask for the roll call at this time on that appointment.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
No.
Motion passes. On Gen 2, I'll move to appoint Thea Young. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Oh.
Discussion?
I just, again, think she's the right person for this board. She's shown interest, and she does her research, I will say. So we need people like that on these boards.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. On Gen 3, I will move to appoint Shelley Marie Epoch. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, discussion?
I would think Rachel Zelenzi would be more appropriate in this matter for a variety of reasons that I will not get into in public. If we had an executive session, I would. Go ahead.
I just want to make it clear that having a title on a board does not give you the rights to go out in public and use your title to tell somebody that this building doesn't have a zoning permit, and tell them, we have to be careful of that. We can't use our titles to make decisions outside of this board. And so I just want to make that clear. So that's just some conversation I wanted to be put out there.
I appreciate that question, and Shelley Marie has been a very dedicated person, has served on our zoning commission. I believe she was actually an alternate. It was appointed to a full-time position. She expressed great interest in this. She works very hard. Back to your point, Mr. Evans, she does a tremendous amount of research. She always comes very prepared. She's very interested in township business, and so I think she'd be very good on this, and I think she's definitely earned the opportunity. So with that said, roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. I've had discussions with the township administrator. We have Jed 7. Currently, our fiscal officer serves in that capacity, Jackie Coutinho. This is an owner position. There is bylaw language that says in order to appoint an owner, we are supposed to get 3 recommended names from the owners within that district, and those 3 names come to the Board of Trustees, and then we select one out of those 3. That process has not been followed in the past. Ms. Coutinho has expressed she would like to serve again, but at the recommendation of the township administrator, we would like to put this one on hold until we can follow that process, which is already articulated in the bylaws of Gen 7. And so at this time, I'll open it up. Any discussions or objections to that at this time?
You mentioned that it wasn't followed in the past. I think in the past she was appointed as an owner, and she is an owner.
She's an owner, but the process is we're supposed to get 3 names from the owner and consider 3 names instead of a single name. So it's not disqualifying to her, but I think, Mr. Evans, you brought up an issue regarding the process.
I did, and that's Ms. McKee appointed the last round and appointed Ms. Coutinho on here, just violating that. And that's what
That's enough.
It's, no, but I'm saying that we need to start doing what's right, and I'm glad, and that's why I speak out, because things haven't been done right.
Mr. Evans, there's a lot of things on these JEDs and JEDZs that hasn't done, but it's not a fatal flaw, and it's not necessarily intentional. So, Mr. Evans,
Very
please.
much so is
Please,
intentional.
please, Mr. Evans, we talked about proper decorum and professionalism, and you continue to be combative.
No.
Please, compose yourself.
Mr. Burkholder, I am composed, but this is the
No,
reason
you
I
are not
speak
composed.
out.
You are-
And you just want to silence me
Well,
in
I don't think
every
any-
way.
I don't
And
think-
honestly, if it continues, I'll speak during public comment. I'll get my 5 minutes in.
No, you don't.
So-
You're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
Yes, I am, and,
Okay.
but this is what I mean of why am I so critical? Because these things are still continuing, and if I didn't speak up this time, it would have happened again.
Mr. Evans, the chair actually recognized the point and conferred with the administrator and took, and brought it to the board
But
for a decision.
I cannot reveal what was discussed behind the doors, so I can't say more.
I'm not asking
But-
you to. Let's move on. We now have the JEDZ 1s and JEDZ 2. We don't have, and by the way, those appointments that we just discussed will be effective on November 19th, 2024. We have a JED meetings and JEDZ meetings coming up this Friday. So, yes, at 11 o'clock. And so these will become effective 11/19/2024, effective today. And again, I conferred with the administrator on those effective dates, so that was not arbitrarily decided. When it comes to the JEDZ 2, we have 3 vacancies, and those expired on 10/19/2024. So these appointments will commence on that date, even though that date is passed. And again, the meeting's coming up this Friday, so we want to get these appointments done. And so, and we also have an alternate position as well.
Can I make a motion on this?
You can.
I'd like to motion to appoint Nicole Washington, Rachel Zelenzi, Thea Young.
We'll take these separately, sir.
Okay. Nicole Washington.
I'll second that motion. Is there discussion? Nicole has served on this board. I go to a lot of the JED and JEDZ meetings. I think she's served with distinction. She's been a chair as well on the JEDs, and so she has my support. Does anyone else wants
I'll
to?
second.
No, just say that.
Mr.
Well,
Evans?
We had the first and second already, but is there any other
Okay.
comments regarding Nicole?
no, well, the only thing I'd say is, while Nicole wasn't appointed through the proper process, she has
Mr.
shown
Evans, that's out.
value in there.
Mr. Evans,
so
that's out. Mr. Evans, it's out of order.
No, it is not.
Stick to the present. Quit
You
relitigating
cannot
it.
silence
Stick
me,
to the
Mr.
present.
Burkholder.
Well, I
Can we
choose
call
not
for the
to.
question? Sure.
No, you're out of order, fiscal officer.
I'm tired.
We call the question. The question's been called by the chair, so roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
I'd like to move to appoint Rachel Zelenzi.
Is there a second to the motion? Is there a second to the motion? Motion fails for a lack of second. I will move to appoint Thea Young to the JEDZ 2 board. Is there a
I'll second.
second? Discussion?
No, again, I think she's the type of individual we need on the board, and she's expressed a lot of interest. so.
Yes, she expressed an interest in this one, and she's been, worked on a lot of projects and shown a lot of interest, so I support this motion as well. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
motion passes. I'll move to appoint Shelley Marie Epoch to the other to the other position here. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
No, I'm just glad we're moving away from trustees on the board.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
There is a
Alternative.
alternate, is there any,
I'll move for Rachel Zelenzi as an alternate.
is there a second to the motion? Motion fails for lack of second. If we have no other names at this time, this is another, if we did not get all these appointed or these positions filled, we can address the alternate position when we address the appointment of the owner to the Gen 7. We can take it up at that time. So we'll work with the township administrator to the process for getting those 3 names from the owners, and then this will be on a future. In fact, that alternate position was vacant anyway, so we'll follow up in a subsequent meeting on that.
Was it 4? Did we get the 4? Or are we going to do the other one later? Did we get 4? 1, 2.
We got the 3
Yeah,
three seats.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, good question. You're still on for it because your term goes till 2025.
Yeah. All right.
Very good, thank you. Okay. We are under new business, item A. I will make a motion to approve the payment of the judgment in the Licking County Common Pleas case number 2024-CV00385 in the amount of $27,030.72. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yes, this, despite how it's portrayed by some, was due to missed filing deadlines, no representation for the BZA. Mr. Burkholder refuses to release that attorney email asking him to please get representation for the BZA. BZA had 0 representation. The judge's order clearly shows that numerous items were not filed on time, information was not given, and that was under the direction of Mr. Burkholder as the only contact working with the outside counsel. By not only not getting the BZA consulting representation, he didn't properly oversee the case. We lost. And this stuff about the harassment of Ms. Hansen is total bull hockey, because asking someone to do their job is not harassment. When I voted to send this to be appealed, I didn't know they owned that property at all. It was due to the 80% variance, 80%. Our zoning commissions, or the BZA, is now talking about 25% being that line of approve or not. So in the court, Ms. Hansen said, well, everybody knows we own that property. I don't know if they think they're the Rockefellers and everybody knows what property they're owned, but
I cannot believe
people don't know what property is whose just because the Hansens own it. And again, I didn't know. I made my decision on Ms. Hansen. This is my time.
Yeah, you are.
And
No, hold on.
okay, hold on. And
Well,
I will put it out there. Since I've been called a liar, and I know they're not admissible in court or anything, but I will take a lie detector test and ask Ms. Hansen to also.
Well, you're not
If,
gonna-
no, and if she passes and I fail,
You're out of
I will
order.
resign. But I know,
Schedule it tomorrow.
I know what the truth is here. And again, if we did not, if the township, which was Mr. Burkholder, did not mismanage this, and again, this is the attorney that was waiting for an administrator because he couldn't get replies, he couldn't get any of that.
Mr. Evans, if you can't control your
No,
emotions.
no, this is
I'm
my
going to
time.
ask
I
you
have
to-
10 minutes.
I'm
I
going
have
to
10
ask
minutes,
you
sir.
to leave the hall.
I have 10 minutes,
I'm
sir.
going to ask
You
you
talk
to
about
leave the
Robert's
hall.
rules. You are trying to protect yourself
No.
from the continuing incompetent actions that are costing the township money.
Let me ask you a question, Mr.
This,
Evans.
no, I'm not done.
Did you,
Asking someone to do their job that is being paid over $100,000
Mr. Evans,
is
you're
not harassment, and our attorney didn't even.
Mr. Evans,
No,
you
and
are-
our attorney didn't even know that the zoning inspector was
Mr.
the
Evans.
judge's bailiff.
you are
That's
out.
a conflict.
You are out of order. Well,
I am not out of
let me-
order.
Let me have one question.
I'm
Mr.
speaking the truth,
Mr.
and you don't like it.
Well, Mr. Evans, I invite everyone to read.
Were you not supposed to get the BZA
I asked
representation?
everyone to read the judgment. Let me ask you a question.
You were asked on the stand.
So you-
about it.
Mr. Evans, did you file a complaint against Nita Hansen after she left the employ of the township with the Ohio Supreme Court Disciplinary Council? Did you do that?
Yes, because it was based on a concern
And-
of a notary of a oath of office that the
And-
fiscal officer also thought, I'll say kindly, wasn't on the up and up, where you have a distinct document with markings,
Mr. Evans.
and I submitted it not because of
Call the question.
No, Culper, because I got comments. Because
We'll defer to you now.
Okay, thank you.
You won't answer the question.
I
Mr.
want
Evans.
to be clear, Mr. Evans, again, out on social media, so this was all planned. Burke Holder, at the time he's responded to a resident, failed to obtain a representation from the BZA, even after our attorney told him to. The judge mentioned that in his order. Burkholder apparently failed to properly inform our attorney that the zoning inspector was the judge's former bailiff.
Correct.
Conflict. This is what he puts out on Facebook.
correct.
I mean, this is absurd, Mr. Evans. You continually.
It is absurd that
to
the BZA
start
didn't
and
have
continue-
representation.
Now listen, I'm gonna tell you how deep it
At
goes.
the
Then at the
insistence.
end, I'm not gonna read it all. Burkholder is still trying to play administrator while failing miserably. Okay, this is how he insults us publicly. McKee, referring to me, is still not doing anything. Okay, watch the meeting. So he's already forewarned people to come to the meeting or watch it tomorrow for more of Burkholder McKee's nonsense to be exposed. This is what he likes. This is what he wants. He wants this township to fail. And we have to make sure that this township doesn't fail. And we will make sure of that, Mr. Evans, in 2025.
No.
Call the
Just-
question, call the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
And I apologize to the community that you have to endure this kind
Sad,
of,
man.
this kind of nonsense during
Just
discussion. And anyone that really wants to know the true facts of that case, feel free to read that judgment. I will say this, that I felt it was an egregious act by the BZA to grant that much of a variance. It was a board decision to go ahead and appeal that decision. I agree with Mr. Evans, 80%, that was harmful to the township and set a dangerous precedent. But there are more facts to the case of why, first of all, we did not have standing. The court ruled we did not have standing. And I am disappointed in the court's decision. I do disagree with that decision. This was regarding attorney fees, and I disagree with this decision too as far as law. But anyone that wants to know the transparency, look at the entire case and why the judge ruled that they did, and you'll see the whole story. So
And
with
can you
that,
explain
this-
why you
this is
didn't
done.
get the
This is-
BZA
this is-
representation?
We're moving on.
Of course you
We're
want to
not
move
gonna
on.
get to.
Isn't that part of the case?
Well, Mr. Evans, all you.
Why won't you release that email?
I don't know what you're talking about. If
The
you
email
have it,
from
Mr. Evans,
Mr.
you are out of
Kyler
order. If
telling
you're not-
you that you need to get the BZA representation. That email. You refused to release it last time. Are you opening that up
I'm not
now?
gonna take any more indictments from you. The case is closed. It's very obvious that you're gonna continue to attack me during your full term. And I'm just gonna sit here and take it because I'm keeping my job. I'm keeping my eyes on what my job is, and that is to
Thank you,
do,
Mr.
represent.
Burkholder. I appreciate that.
Well, that's all we can do, given the fact we're under constant attack,
Yes.
which
Thank you.
is violating what you said, that
Constant
you were going to
impropriety.
restore civility and professionalism to this board. Enough said. The next is to apply, motion.
Yeah. I thought he was hiring me.
Motion to apply.
Go ahead, Mr. Burkholder.
Motion to apply for a 2025 MORPC intern. There's a motion by Mr. Evans. I'll second that. I wanted to bring it to the board, see what, I think we've had good luck with our interns here. I'm very supportive of the program to give them experience and also get
Yes.
some paid assistance and within zoning and good experience. So any comments from the board?
And that doesn't start till in May or June?
Yeah,
Is that-
they just asked, the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning
Yes.
Commission asked us if we're interested, and I thought the sooner the better,
Yep.
so.
Okay,
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes,
Ms. McKee?
yes.
motion passes. Item C is a motion to approve Resolution 2024-62. And this is relative to, and I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-62, a resolution to hire a full-time road department laborer. And that would be to hire Jonathan Dearman as a full-time road department laborer, subject to the following, and we have various sections there. This is similar to what we did in our most recent hire. We are short by, we've hired someone recently as our fourth position. This would be the fifth position, so we get back to full service, full employment within the service department. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Discussion.
Yeah, again, glad we're moving forward. I'm afraid, again, if I didn't speak out today, we wouldn't have been dealing with this today. It would have been on the next meeting, or the meeting after that.
Thank God.
These are the things that need to be done, and sir, that's not appropriate. But it's needed, but also, we did lose an employee, so this is going back up to full-time employment. So,
May I say something about that?
Yes, sir.
Losing an employee? Can you guys make sure you put me on the emails when we lose one and when we have one, please?
Absolutely. That's a very good suggestion. Ms. McKee, do you have anything regarding this hire?
I don't, I just know when we discussed bringing that, when she did those full interviews, there were several, so this was a good time for us to get that second person.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
yes,
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes, motion passes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes, of course.
You forgot Ms. McKee.
You forgot Ms. McKee.
That's okay, you got it.
Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2024-061 to approve the purchase orders?
So moved.
Is there a second?
no second.
Second by Mr. Evans. Discussion.
Let me pull them up.
We are, let me add at this time, we had a very good meeting with our our visiting fiscal officer consultant this last Saturday. It was the administrator as well as the fiscal officer. One of the reports we noticed that we can print out is where our status is on our current existing purchase orders. In other words, how much is left on those balances, like with outside counsel and some of our other vendors, so that we can kind of be ahead, and if we're running low on those approved, appropriated funds for that project or for that consultant, that we can come back to the board and get additional authorization. So at this time, I think is there any further questions on this? We are going to need more in outside counsel under Bricker Graydon, and I'll make a separate motion on that. But first, I'll defer to the board members if you have any questions on the current.
The only question I have is, why are we continuing to pay for the Jed Z, all that, when they have funds within the district that they can pay for themselves? Why are we paying and getting reimbursed instead of them just paying, because they got to reimburse it anyway? I don't know why we're continuing with that.
I think that's a good question. I have the same question. I think on some of the, and again, don't quote me on this, but I think I've gathered from the meetings that I have attended that on some of the JEDs, but I agree I'd like for us to work with the fiscal officer and get a listing of what we have paid and bring this issue to their boards as to why they're not paying directly, and are there outstanding reimbursements that the townships have received. So I'll defer to Ms. McKee and the fiscal officer, Ms. Coutinho, if you guys have any
Yeah.
comments. I don't know how much we've paid and how much we need to
Yeah,
get
well,
back, but I think it's a good
Yeah,
point.
the ones out at Reynoldsburg, the jets are set up that way in the contract. So that's how that's set up. So we can't change that. Jedsies are different. So that's why it's set up the way it is. That's in the contract.
Well, I would disagree. They're set up for the initial payment until funds are generated.
I'm telling you what it is, so you can,
Well, I think I'd like to see us revisit that question with the jets and see what, because you're right, Mr. Evans, it is an outlay of cash, and I'd rather have it, if
set
it's
up
an
in the
expense.
contract, and then we get reimbursed. That's just how it's set up, and that's, the jets are different than Jedsies. They're
Okay,
totally
well,
different.
then let's, let's, if we can just get a copy of that so everybody's on the same page, I think that'd be helpful. Any other discussion or questions regarding the authorization of the POs?
No.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to authorize a purchase order for an additional $10,000 to Bricker and Graydon. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second, but I have questions.
Well, we have another invoice, and if the fiscal officer wants to chime in at this time, more than welcome to do so, but in order to pay that, and I think having this list now of when we're getting close to our POs, and sometimes we don't know because their invoice may lag behind from when we actually call them. So it's kind of difficult to estimate. I believe we have, and we want to double check if we've appropriated in our 2024 budget, if we have enough money. I know we put quite a bit in there for legal fees, but I want to make certain we have a sufficient amount. But I would like to see this PO on our December meeting, so that, and the invoice from Bricker Graydon, so that we can make sure we pay our bills.
Well,
Do you think,
Go ahead, Mr.
no, go ahead, Ms. Coutinho.
Go
do
ahead.
you think 10,000 will be enough till the end of the year?
I don't know. I'm open to any suggestions from the board.
Well, I'd say I've been asking for that information for quite a while of where are we at with all these outside legal expenses. And again, Mr. Burkholder, you're the contact with that. You're determining
No.
what's being done and what's being
No.
spent with those. Yes, with the
Did you ask the
legal departments.
administrator? Did you ask the administrator? She's been here since October 7th. Have you asked her as well? Because she has authorization. Did you or did you not?
Ms. Burkholder, I've been asking you, and now she's on sick leave, and I'm only asking the important stuff. I had no idea that now we've got an invoice that we've exceeded the PO amount. But this again, you are dealing with this, and you should be providing the proper oversight of how much is being expended and how much is authorized and how much is reasonable, because we've got the prosecutor, and I saw a bill that you were asking the outside counsel about records requests. Like, that should be the prosecutor for free, not the outside counsel at hundreds an hour.
You brought this up previously, Mr. Evans.
No, I know,
so-
but this is, you keep
I
saying you
missed
bring it up, but it's a recurring theme that there's not proper oversight, there's not any of this, and I would like to see the listing and what, we had so much approved of the BZA case, we had so much approved of that. I've been asking for that and haven't got it. I've been asking for bank statements and haven't got it. And to realize that and to realize that now we can create a report, that's part of standard reports of where we're at. And I brought that up back in June of where are we at things,
Let's move
and
on,
nothing.
please.
So,
Well, these are the kinds of, those records, that's why when you brought it up at the previous meeting, I brought it up on Saturday, and we worked together with the consultant, the fiscal officer for 3 hours, and also with the township administrator, so that we can get these records. So
no,
that-
I'm talking about using outside counsel at a cost of hundreds per hour versus our prosecutor, and you did that, and that's not proper.
Okay.
It's supposed to be for special economic development issues only.
Roll call, please.
It is your time.
Mr. Evans?
No.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
For the additional $10,000
Right.
to sit in the, well, because I didn't discuss before you.
Well, I'll back up,
Yeah.
give you discussion, go ahead.
This is just to put in the account, does not mean it will be spent.
Correct.
It's almost like a blanket, so I'm just explaining it to everyone.
Well, we do have a bill for like $2,000.
Right, but that's fine, but this is just to get us to the first of the year, to end of this month, the end of December.
Correct.
So with that means, I just want to make it clear to everybody.
Well, I'd like to clarify that when Mr. Burkholder was asked if that's enough for the year, he said he doesn't know. We're not provided the information to make a
It's okay.
decision.
But how am I
This is
supposed to
blanket.
know how many
It's fine.
lawyers you're gonna go talk to?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do we
But-
know what future
Yeah.
issues come
Yeah.
up, Mr. Evans? You
We
have a
should
crystal ball?
be provided progress reports that we can't even get
How am I
that.
supposed to give you a report saying, okay, you're gonna spend 5 hours?
No,
talking
of
to
what
the
we
lawyer?
have already. I've asked for it numerous times in
I
these
have
meetings.
given you the 3 reports on my list, in my book, every month with the bank rec. Yes.
There are numerous
Yes.
reports that I've asked for that
Call
are
the question at this time.
Mr. Evans?
I already voted no.
He knew the no, I voted yes.
Yes.
Ms. McKee, yes. Motion passes, thank you. Is there a motion to ratify the payment of the bills as shown on the
So
payment
moved.
listing?
So moved.
I'll second. Questions?
The only thing I say, these things should be included in the report agenda for not only the board's use, but the public's. It's very easy to add these, and they're just not being added.
Well, you'll have to talk to just clarification, Mr. Evans. I made no decision to not put those on the agenda, so I suggest you talk to the administrator about that.
I can say that I didn't get this done until yesterday because of the check that we had to wait on.
Yeah, Mr. Evans, I think there were some checks,
No,
so let's talk about the Strouser payment. What's the detail on that before we vote on this, or something about
The striping, we held back the money for the striping.
We held back the full amount of the money for the final striping, which was $25,000 and change, due to an issue with the reapplication of the markings at the school zone. As part of the process, I went reviewed all the roads. Bubba said he reviewed, didn't see anything of concern. He said some standing water he had a concern about, but this was just a thin overlay. It's not resurfacing and re-sloping roads. I didn't find any of those issues, but I did find that the markings at the school, previously, it was a double lane school marking, and what they did is put it in a single, contacted the engineer for the proper requirements, and it varies if you're under or over 11 foot. We're under 11 foot, so it requires the double lane. I've been in contact with Strouser and also Griffin, the striper, about how do we resolve this. They can't grind it because it's microsurfacing. So they can try to water blast it. I'm concerned about any damage to microsurfacing, so is Strouser a little bit. So the remedy that we're looking at is to white out the current school one, then black it out, because if we just blacked it out, it might wear out.
Okay,
and show
okay.
school. And then they're gonna reapply, so until they reapply, I'm saying we should hold that 25,000, I think
when will this
600.
be done?
It's dependent on weather and also our final acceptance of this is the way we're moving forward. I've had discussions with the administrator. She's on board with my plan for this. I talked to Dominic at Strouser. He believes that's the correct way to go. He's talking to another individual and company that's got more experience with the striping and issues.
Okay.
So hopefully, he was supposed to contact me today, hopefully by the end of the meeting or tomorrow, but we can just simply hopefully have it resolved and just pay it at the next meeting.
What's the cost? Are they gonna break it down by road, what the cost is? Because, for example, Refugee Road, I think it would be worthwhile making a request to the JEDZs for reimbursement, since truck traffic is using Refugee Road to get their 310.
Well, the areas that were that were recoded are what we've been talking about. We don't want trucks on, that Pataskala's been enforcing no trucks on.
I don't know that they are enforcing it. I think that's changed, and we cannot enforce on our side of the road.
Correct, but they can enforce theirs, but they've been, because what's been treated was from Columbia to 310.
That's
And
correct.
trucks aren't supposed to be on that route.
Well, I
And
know,
from
but-
Taylor to
But they have been.
Mink.
But they are. That's my point. But they are. And so my question is still the same. Are they breaking, can we get costs per section?
Yeah,
And I've indicated that to the administrator, because I'd like to see if we can get reimbursed on that. And I think we have some other questions on some of the other reimbursements. But I have had complaints on the job on refugee. I'm not sure what that application was, but it's kind of bumpy.
Yeah,
It's
I've
not.
well, because it's a thin layer over the existing service to extend the life. So it's not flattening it out if there's little ruts, or if that, it's gonna keep the bump, but what we're trying to do is preserve the structure of the road.
I understand.
And that's why we did the Cape Seal on Refugee Road, which was it was actually a chip and seal, and then the microsurface. So
Right.
it's more there, but yeah, it's not gonna be like new asphalt. But it saves us an incredible amount of money.
That's another thing then I'd like to see. I'd like a comparison between what chip and seal, mill and fill, and what this application is, so we have some comparison there.
I provided that to the board when we approved this. We had
So-
the engineer's estimate for
Right.
mill and fill, so when you say, I'd like to see, you've already seen it. And this is
Well,
what I mean.
I haven't seen the final invoices per road, Mr. Evans.
We went over it at that time, of
I
how
mean-
much it was per refugee versus how much it was.
And I want to see what the final bill is. So what?
It's the same, because
So-
it's through the state contract. They cannot change it. They're not, the quantities aren't,
I don't think you understand.
no, I understand what you, but
What's
that
the total,
information's
what's
already
the total
provided.
cost then?
I'll re-provide that information to the board.
So you have the short paid fiscal officer, the amount?
$604,862.12.
Any questions, Ms. McKee?
No, I'm looking at it here. She
I'll call
provided
the
to us.
question then. On to approve the payment,
Yeah.
all the payments. Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes.
Motion passes. Any transfers?
No, but the ending bank balance for October 31st is almost 5 million.
9.5
9,
million.
463,370 and 34 cents. We received $274 last month, and we payments were $96,570.
You made 274,000?
Huh?
The receipts?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
How much is being kept in our checking account?
In the one checking account was 1.5 million until we ended up spending 670,000, almost 671,000 today. So it will go down to like $900,000.
Okay. I just want to make sure that not a lot is being kept in there because we can earn interest, and that's one of the things the auditors will look at.
We
is
earn
the-
interest on every account we have.
But we earn more in the others,
We
right?
earn more in the STAR account.
Correct. I just want to make sure we're not overfunding the checking account at a loss of interest. That is one thing the
We took the
auditors
vote
will
on
look
that.
at.
Mike, we took the vote on that payment.
Yes.
Okay, public comments. Limited 2 minutes. State your name, address, please, and direct your comments to the board. You'll have a couple of minutes.
Nita Hanson, 51 Ridgewood Drive, Southwest. I would like to apologize to Mr. Burkholder and Ms. McKee for my outburst earlier.
No.
I should have had better self-control. Whether it was spoken in truth or not, I should have exercised better self-control. And so I apologize to you for the disrespect. None was intended. But I know that Mr. Burkholder can now appreciate what Ms. McKee has endured for 3 years, what I endured for the 10 months that I was here when I said I will no longer tolerate this conduct. I will no longer receive the harassment, which led to my filing of a complaint, which led to the investigation that was conducted, which led to the report, which led to the public reprimand, which ultimately led to me leaving the township. And it was my choice to no longer endure the harassment, the bullying, the name calling, but nevertheless, I should never have shouted out from my seat, and for that, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time?
Aubrey Hanson, 160 Roland Road. My mom's way nicer than I am. I'm not going to apologize for anything. But you are named multiple times in that brief. So for you to pass blame over to Mr. Burkholder, whether he had anything to do with it or not, it was all brought because of your actions, Mark. Sit there, shake your head, let the marbles roll around. That seems to be all that's in there. But you are the cause. Always. You cost the township money. Constantly cost the township money. And it's constantly, like my dad said, blame, complain, defend. I'm going to bring you a book about it. It's super good. You might learn something. I hope you can change, but I have very little hope. Real inside me, I have very little hope that you actually will change. That's all I have.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time?
Steve Perkins, 7352 Farmer Road. I've got a couple different things to mention here. First off, I usually get here late because of work, but I usually listen on the way home. And there's still plenty of things not following the rules of decorum and debate under Robert's rules. And I'm not even going to go far enough as to point who's to blame for most of those, but it's directly in there, okay, that you're not supposed to disparage other members of the board. You're not supposed to discuss anything that is not presently before the board, prior actions of the board, especially in derogatory terms. As far as the legal case goes, we have sued ourselves and lost. That's quite an accomplishment. So I just want to correct a couple things here. First off, no attorney can create standing. You didn't lose the case. It got bounced because the township had no standing in the case. That's not the same thing. It doesn't matter how many attorneys you've got if you don't have standing, okay? So, again, every time we try this stuff, it ends up costing the township money. Now, we can argue about paying the bills, but I also want to point out that this was, again, pointed out for we're paying the attorney's fees. The township, the people of the township are paying the attorney's fees because this lawsuit was deemed frivolous by the court. In addition to not having standing. So you can make up all you want to about attorney this, attorney that. Attorneys cannot create standing. It doesn't work that way in court. So that's a totally moot point. And on top of it, the judge found the case frivolous and ordered the township to pay the attorney's fees on it. So let's not try and whitewash what actually happened. I'm getting tired as a taxpayer of paying the bills for the actions of members of this board when they get something up their hind end that they want to tax somebody else for.
2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next? Anyone else?
Wait a minute. Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I have to, I'm sorry. Theo Young, 9167 Taylor Road. I do appreciate your trust in the appointment tonight. Thank you very much. The other question, I have to beg your indulgence because I do miss meetings and I'm not current on everything. But there was discussion about asking the JEDs for reimbursement and a letter being produced for the meeting coming up this Friday.
Yes.
And I didn't know where that stood.
Well, I've talked to the administrator this afternoon. We're trying to get those numbers, and I had a discussion with her, and I'm not sure that we have all the numbers, which is one of the reasons I wanted to bring up about Refugee Road as well. We may not be able to have enough time to include Refugee in this request. And again, those requests really need to be in advance of spending money. And correct me, Ms. McKee, if I'm wrong, I thought that the board expressed they might be sympathetic to reimbursing on some of the expenditures that we've already made. And these are expenditures that benefit the JEDZ or the JED. Those can be reimbursed by the JEDZs and the JED. In fact, our former administrator I think it was 600 and some thousand on Heritage Drive.
Yes.
One from the JEDZ 2 and some from JEDZ 1. So it's to the advantage of the township that when we make these infrastructure improvements that benefit the district, even tangentially, that we go back and get those reimbursements. I think we had some, I'm not sure, I think we had some from May, and there might have been some previous ones. So we've discussed this quite a bit. I know the administrator's working on getting that list together and composing a letter. So it may not be all inclusive, but I appreciate the question and would like to get those submitted for consideration at the upcoming meeting.
Well, I'd just like to add that on May 18th, this was discussed, information provided in an email. In our meeting on May 21st and June 4th, it was approved, there was an actual vote for Ms. McKee to take that reimbursement request to the board. She failed to do that
Mr.
back
Evans,
then.
Mr.
No,
Evans.
you're asking.
Mr. Evans.
We've already approved it.
Let him go.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to make it clear.
We've already brought this up numerous times, Mr. Evans. Go ahead, Ms. McKee. I'm going to give you the
As a
floor.
board member, I do not bring any reimbursement because that would be a conflict of interest. So you have your administrator, just like the previous administrator we had, she brought it to the board, presented it, and it went smoothly. Prior to that, when Mr. Burkholder, as he mentioned, he attended our meetings, and I had him present it verbally. But we decided that once the administrator started, which she did, and I provided her the policies and procedures that are in place in order to be reimbursed, she is working on that.
Yes, that is correct. She is working on that. So we will put that together. Anyone else at this time that has any public comments? 2 minutes, please. Anyone? Okay. We're not going to have an executive session. Announcement and trustee comments. First of all, our next meeting is December 3rd at 6 p.m. And we were going to have a work. Go ahead.
I do have comments. Are you going to
Yeah.
let us go through the comments first? Or?
Yeah, I just want to get the
Okay.
announcements, but we'll definitely have comments. And then we were going to have a work session on the budget on the 26th of November, but that has been changed to December 4th at 4 to 6 p.m. I believe the administrator sent out a notice to the trustees to see if they would be available. We need a little more time to work with the consultant to get together a draft budget for consideration by the board. Other than that, I don't, are there comments, Ms. McKee?
Yeah, I wanted to actually bring up the fact that we need to purchase some chairs for these podiums here. Because these chairs are pretty much at it, and they're up and down. You have one of the new ones there, I see. Is that from the counter in there?
Yeah, I didn't want to sit in the well tonight, so I went ahead and...
I agree with that. So.
I haven't lost my sense of humor, in case anyone
So I
wanted
just
to
wanted
know.
to see if we can move to try to get some money to purchase these chairs for our podiums.
If I may, since we did, can we put that on the next agenda and
Please.
let the administrator know? We'll have it on there to get that taken care of. Anything else? Mr. Evans?
Yes, a few things. Regarding the change in the special budget workshop, you put out the agenda here with the wrong date. These are the things that we need to work on providing access and information. The ODOT information on our website didn't contain all the information. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff, but regarding why I speak up in that, and Mr. Burkholder, you're full of a lot of excuses, but they're not truthful. You had indicated that you were never informed about the executive session and the recording until we get security cameras. Here's the email on July 15th. That's a fact. You lied. You also stated, I didn't bring up and try to discuss the budget back in June. And that I raised the same concerns, and you refused to even allow a discussion on the agenda. And that was June 26th and June 11th. Actual facts, not you trying to protect yourself with lies.
What was your discussion going to be on the budget?
And of when are we going to start doing the budget, why we aren't getting those progress reports of where we're at for revenue to date, for expenditures to date. It's all been in here, and it was refused, and I actually tried to add it to the agenda, and you refused it again. And then again, the jet reimbursement. Ms. McKee said, no, Mark, you were supposed to do that.
We've already discussed that, Mr.
On
Adams.
May 18th, May 21st, and June 4th, and if you watch the meeting, it's even more explicit than what's in the minutes, but Ms. McKee was supposed to do it, so there's a lot of revisionist history going on here that just isn't proper. But one of the main things, problem with the minutes has been, it hasn't been used properly. Things are not added. Things are added at the last minute, and since May, Mr. Burkholder is the only one that has not responded to the numerous requests to even set up his account so he can access it, and we start using that system, which is costing us $8,000 a year. He just refuses to do it. And then regarding Mr. Davis's comment, he was at the fire district board, and how is a different person there and here? Well, the reason Mr. Burkholder and Ms. McKee are not part of that board, and there's not the shenanigans going on, there's not all the impropriety, the ignoring of requests, the non-response to emails. We have residents who have had ongoing concerns about zoning starting in September, and it's still unresolved. I was told by our administrator, we don't know how to enforce it. Mr. Burkholder, you were over zoning for 322 days this year and couldn't figure that out. It's a thing that we are just falling further and further behind. And yes, the administrator's doing her work, but she's being hampered. And regarding trying to get the video recording, that agenda and meeting software can incorporate that. I made sure of that, but Ms. McKee and the former administrator were using a system that is so convoluted that Ms. McKee won't even touch it. It's not her job. But I tried. I was the only trustee that attempted to do it for 2 weeks. It's just ridiculous.
I will.
And then, no, I got more. I got 10 minutes. Regarding the harassment claims by Mr. Kennard, Mr. Kennard was the one that was harassing me as a resident before I took my seat in 2019 at the public meetings, and that was allowed. The impropriety is just overwhelming here. He also mentioned, you can tell that there's no contract negotiation. I'm sorry, that's a state contract at a state bid, so you're not going to negotiate that price, but I have reviewed and made sure that the other contracts are good, even on the fire district board. Again, the minutes is because of a disorganized agenda. Mr. Burkholder had control of this agenda. The administrator should control the agenda with the input of all 3 equal trustees. Mr. Burkholder will not allow it.
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
And
It's not true, Mr. Evans.
And there was a claim by Mr. Hansen that I've driven out employees. Well, they didn't leave until Mr. Burkholder came on board because there was supposedly going to be some accountability, but he changed as soon as he took his seat. So obviously there wasn't. And it's just on and on. And people wonder why I speak out, because it's constant. It is absolutely constant. The board, other board members want to say it's in the past. That was last week, last month, yesterday that these things are occurring that are affecting this township. And it's just, like I said, Mr. Burkholder, 3 lies within the last 2 meetings of trying to deflect his culpability and blame it on me. And I could come up with more.
Well, why
Because
not?
what I say, I can back up, and it is true, and it stands with Ms. Hanson. You and I take a lie detector test, let's do it. Let's put it to rest.
Stop attacking the citizens. I'm only gonna comment on one thing. Mr. Evans did send a clarification. Mr. Evans did send an email about executive session. First of all, there was an alleged incident in the executive session, which I did not witness. Then Mr. Evans wanted access to the security cameras, and given the past, I said, no, only the security company will have access to our security cameras, because I'm not going to allow them to be weaponized against other trustees of the public.
They're public record.
Be quiet, please, or anyone else. So then Mr. Evans, so he didn't have any evidence that he could weaponize against anyone. So his next threat, and it was a threat, and I took it as a threat, you either get security cameras in the executive sessions or I'm going to start recording. And that may create a problem as far as a public record request for executive sessions. That's what he said. I took it as a threat, so I did not respond to it. But I can tell you for a fact that when we went, and I don't know how many executive sessions he recorded, but when we went into those individual executive sessions, he never told us at the beginning, by the way, I'm recording everything in here. He never said that. So now he's saying, because I sent you a threatening email that I told you ahead of time, I am not going to take threats from Mr. Evans to do what he wants when I think it's not proper for the township. That's the rest of the story that Mr. Evans doesn't want
But
you to
you
know.
claimed I never told you. That wasn't flat.
You never told me.
Now you're changing
You
your story.
never told us when we went into executive session, you never announced at the beginning of those, by the way, according to my email, I'm now going to record because you're afraid to go into executive session and have a discussion, or if someone says a disparaging remark to you, you feel threatened. That's nonsense.
The false accusations by Ms.
let me
McKee.
say-
Ms. McKee has the floor.
Yeah,
Ms. McKee
well,
has the floor, Mr. Evans.
Anything that he recorded and he went public, it is public record, and he has to give it up to.
No, we're still waiting for that
No,
attorney opinion,
no.
which we can't
Mr. Evans,
move
it's
forward
public
with.
record. You have to actually give it up. Okay, and if you recorded as far back as you claim you did when you sat at that podium there, we had interviews. And we also had the disciplinary. So all of
You were
those
on
people,
record, and you were
excuse me,
on
Mr.
record.
Evans, all of those are now public records. Now we can be sued because of the fact that that information has to go out to the ones who asked for it. And if they decide to put it out there on the social media, we can be sued now.
No.
Oh, yes, we can, Mr.
Number
Evans.
one, we haven't gotten the opinion. If the opinion says it is, it is. However, your threats are, you threatened to have Mr. Burkholder arrested, and he ran out of here. When the sheriffs came.
Move to adjourn.
with it.
There's a motion to adjourn on the floor. Is there a
So
second?
moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Burkholder?
Yes.
Ms. McKee?
Yes, please, let's go.
When are you gonna post these videos, Mark? You're about a month behind, and I wanna see this one as soon as possible.
Shortly after the doors aren't rusty anymore.
When I have time,
Okay,
with what I'm dealing with.
Give us a date.
It's like you have a doors aren't rusty for a year.
I will give you whatever day you want, what day you can put them out there.
Can you record them? Can you
I
ask
asked you a
Ms.
question.
Cachuno?
Mr. Evans, I asked you a question.
Why aren't you holding Ms.
I
McKee
held you accountable,
responsible?
sitting there asking for you.
When
to
I have
say
time,
proper
I have dealt with it. You've seen the fire board with the $2 million.
Please clear the hall at this time. Please clear the hall at this time. Mr. Evans, you
You
are,
cannot silence me.
obviously.
I will be speaking at every public comment from here on out. No. Okay, threats.
Can you sign that?
Threats from the mouth. Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, you wanna see it right now?
Yes, ma'am.
You wanna see it?
You're out of control. You are. You need to get some tests. You just got approved a lawyer. There's more. There's going to be more. We'll see how the public reacts. There's going to be video. It's going to be really good too. No, no. You don't see my stuff. My stuff. People against you. The people against you nonsense.
This election's not for 4 more years, dude. Yours is coming up.
We need somebody to kind of provide some accountability.
It's certainly not.
Really? Wait until you see how many years we're in the minutes.
Nuclear grade autism.